welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Providence Holy Cross Medical Center, Comfort Keepers In-Home Care, and Hestia Med Spa. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Jean Dorio,
on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, the one and only Dr. Thomas Polucki, a local chiropractor, is joining us today.
It's good to be here.
Yes.
Good to have.
Welcome,
good to
Thomas.
be back.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, we always have interesting discussions, and you bring in some really super topics, especially for our seniors. Anything specific we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so today it's going to be fairly tame, not too controversial at all. Sorry to disappoint, but it is going to be something that we all know about. According to statistics, eventually pretty much everybody is going to have an episode of back pain that requires some professional help. And Barbara can attest to that.
Let's don't even go there. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so we'll get to that story in just a bit. But, there's so much. Back pain is a very unique and individual thing, and there are just a few things that can be generalized about it. I'd like to break that down a little bit about the different types of back pain. And, as most people could guess, I'm not a big fan, and neither is the American College of Physicians, of treating it with essentially narcotics, opioids. They came out with a formal statement a couple of years ago stating that, that should be avoided at all costs. And they're even made a further recommendation that, surgical outcomes in back pain are not as good if they can be avoided at all with non-invasive therapies. And they gave a whole list of the non-invasive therapies that people should try first. And I'd like to spend some time on that. But back pain is often, and in my experience, in which I have a lot of experience with personally, my own back pain issues, and the past 30 years of treating back pain, I've lived vicariously through my patients who just did not get any results with the common conventional treatments for back pain, all the way up from just over-the-counters through prescription medications, pain management, some physical therapy, and even surgeries, and then starting that whole process over again. Just recently, within the past 10 years or so, we've seen a lot more so-called alternatives to that conventional methodology in the gist of non-surgical spinal decompression and prolotherapy and stem cell injections. And as good as marketing as that is, and it makes some people a heck of a lot of money, I only see, obviously, the people that doesn't work for, and it's, in my estimate, a lot, way too much for what they pay for that stuff. And in almost invariably, I'd say that we have better than a 90% success rate of people who follow my recommendations, because that is primary. If you're going to go to a doctor and just disregard their recommendations, I mean, what's the point? But people who follow through, we have much better than a 90% success rate in back pain, in all types of back pain. And that's where I'd like to start off with the three types of back pain, how that is, in my opinion, most commonly misdiagnosed, misunderstood, and mistreated, and then what I believe the missing link as far as how our back pain patients get better when nothing else seems to help.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You want?
well,
Are you ready?
do
Are
I
you ready?
need to come in
Yeah,
here?
we're ready.
Yeah. Are
I'm
you ready
taking
to?
notes, so I
Yeah.
got my pen and
Okay,
paper
but
here,
first,
and I think so our listeners do too.
yeah, thank you. But first, I want to give Barbara a chance because she's not going to get a word in once I get rolling. But there's actually a reason that I'm bringing this up. And oh, by the way, I believe there is hope. So we've had this discussion before, and I'm glad to say that daylight saving time is coming to an end in the country in 2023, finally, because I do believe, regardless, of course, there's going to be dissenting opinions about this, but I am of the school that just shifting people's schedule an hour twice a year causes a lot more harm than good. And I've expressed that opinion a couple times on air already. But apparently enough people finally agreed with me, and thank God we're putting an end to this thing.
Well,
And it does apply to back pain too.
Yep.
Because, in my 40-plus year career, I have had a few patients who were changing their clocks and developed back pain because of it, because they were reaching, turning, twisting, or even falling off ladders. So there is application here.
Yep. So, Barb, you want to chime in?
Yes, I do. Yesterday, I don't remember what time it was, but I was sitting in my desk in my office, and I started to get up. And as I got up, my foot caught on one of the wires that I had under my desk, and I went flying to the floor.
Oh.
And fortunately enough, I stopped myself with my hands to keep myself from going through the sliding glass windows, the doors.
Wow.
And fortunately, my daughter was there. And she helped me up, and she put ice on my knee because I hit my knee and it's swollen. So she made me sit down in the chair, pulled the chair back, and put ice on my knee. And at 12:30, 1:45, I came in to see Dr. Polucki. And he did extensive work on me, more than he has ever done before, because I think I sprained my back is what I did.
Yeah, sprain. The most common kind of back pain is called mechanical pain, and that's exactly what you did there.
Yes. And I'm still feeling a little bit of it today. And my daughter said, Mother, stay in that chair. I will do what needs to be done. And bless her heart, she did. She made me stay in that chair. And I iced my knee more, and I was able to put the chair back so that my back wouldn't hurt, which helped a great deal, because it's beginning to bother me now sitting in this chair.
Sure.
Sitting up straight.
Yeah, even if you do everything right with an injury, and I'm going to get into that, I just want you to have your piece. Even if you do everything right, it's still going to hurt for a while.
Well, and it is. It has started hurting again.
Sure.
And I think getting up and walking around helps it, yet doesn't help it, because I'm putting pressure on it again.
Yeah.
So anyway, I can't go home and just lie in the chair 24/7. I just don't do that.
Right.
And thankfully, my daughter stayed over another night. She usually stays one, but this time she stayed two. And she said, Mother, take care of yourself and do what you're supposed to do. I said, all right. I said, but I'm going to the radio show because Dr. Polucki's coming on, and then I'm going to see him for another treatment. And the treatment did help tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's going to take a few more times.
Yes. Yes, I think it will
Yes.
too. So now, are you ready for me to do my thing?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So as I've kind of queued things up. There are three main types of back pain, and that is about the only commonality that occurs, because every patient is completely unique. So thinking that there's one answer, like surgery, or there's one treatment, like spinal manipulation, general spinal manipulation, or there's one medication, like I don't even know, Toradol, that is going to answer even a good percentage of the problems, is absolutely bad science. And so when you came in, you know, I pretty much, I mean, I have a lot of experience dealing with this, so I didn't have to really scratch my head and crack the books to figure out what was going on with you. I just needed to find where the injury was and start working on it. That's what 30 years of experience does for you. And instead of just asking a couple of questions and then writing a prescription for some kind of anti-inflammatory and muscle relaxer, which is what you would get pretty much everywhere else, maybe a token prescription for physical therapy, and possible follow-up with a specialist if you don't start improving after 6 weeks or whatever. It really comes down to what is injured in mechanical back pain. Okay, so that is the main form of back pain that the overwhelming majority of people are going to experience. They tweak themselves in some way that actually injures some tissue. And I'm going to get into a good amount of detail as far as what tissues are injured. But there's also two other kinds of back pain, and that is referred back pain, where a problem from a spinal condition can go into an arm or a leg, but it doesn't travel past the first joint. It doesn't go into it. It won't go. Let's say it's in the arms. It won't go past the elbow. If it's in the legs, it won't go past the knee, and that's referred pain, which means that an injury or a problem in the spine is putting pain somewhere else. And usually that pain is kind of like an ache, or and don't get me wrong, an ache can be severe. An ache can be a 10 out of 10 pain. A dull pain can be a 10 out of 10 pain. It's not that dull achiness is any less severe than sharp stabbing pain. There's gradations of all of it. So an aching dull pain can be miserable. But typically that's what you get with referred pain. It can be an aching dull pain. It can be quite severe, but it won't go all the way to, let's say, the fingertips or the toes. That's something different. That's what is referred to as radicular pain. And why is it ridiculous? Why is it ridiculous? No, the radical is the little bundle of nerves as it leaves the spine. There's a thing called a radical. Why it's called a radical, I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure it's got some basis in Latin, but my Latin's a little rusty after 35 years. So there's this thing called the radical, and then if for whatever reason something is tweaking that bundle of nerves as it leaves the spine, that pain will go all the way to the fingertips or to the toes. So those are the three basic types.
So which one did I have? Do I have?
You definitely had mechanical pain. Now that can progress to referred pain easily, and it often does. And sometimes it can even progress into radicular pain if it's not taken care of properly. So really, as far as I'm concerned, unless there's some outstanding cause, like something like an infection, which is very serious. An infection can be as dangerous to the spine as cancer. And those are two things that need to be ruled out. But when you have an immediate history of a trauma that causes a new type of pain, yes, you can be overly thorough and do a full-blown imaging and all of that, just to make sure that, okay, there isn't an underlying infection, there isn't an underlying pre-existing condition like cancer, and that may be warranted, but I don't practice that. If it's pretty straightforward, I'm going to see if I can treat this problem mechanically, and if it responds to that mechanical treatment, it's a pretty good bet that it is just mechanical pain. If it doesn't respond, then I'm not going to ignore that. Then I'll send someone for some advanced imaging or whatever test I deem appropriate. But it's something as straightforward as I tripped, I fell, now my back hurts, it didn't hurt like this before. I'm going to approach it as it is a mechanical problem. Even with your pre-existing history, that would certainly justify further diagnostic tests. I want to see if I can help you the easiest and least invasive way first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, after I was in that accident, what was it, 4 years ago now? At least 4 years ago. And you treated me for that. And I've been coming to you every week since that time, after that initial treatment was over. And the logical thing for me to do after I fell was, Dee Dee, I've got to go see Dr. Polucki.
Yeah,
And the only thing she did, she gave me 2 Tylenol to take to see if that would ease the pain.
Yeah, sometimes it can take the edge off. But even with mechanical pain, there's almost always there's going to be an inflammatory component. Almost always in every condition, even conditions that aren't painful, there's an inflammatory component. There's an inflammatory component to cancer. There's an inflammatory component to high blood pressure. There's an inflammatory component to heart disease. There's an inflammatory component to everything. So I get that a lot of people are going to have a favorable response to some form of anti-inflammatory therapy. But if you don't go to why the tissue is inflamed, I think it's giving you a false sense of security more often than not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And a lot of the over-the-counters, even the over-counters, forget about the prescriptions for a second, even a lot of the over-counters should have black box warnings on them. Like, they can kill you. Like, you take too many regular over-the-counter ibuprofen, you're going to start hemorrhaging in your intestines. You take too many aspirin, you're going to start hemorrhaging in your stomach. You take too many Advil or whatever, naproxen, you're going to cause liver or kidney damage or both. And people think that, well, just because I can buy it at the convenience store, it must be fine. But these things are, real drugs and with real serious side effects. Most people.
Barbara is better. Barbara is better now.
Yeah.
And getting better. But what modalities did you use other than drugs? Did you use to get her better?
Okay, so mechanical problem. It makes sense to me, at least, in my my personal experience and my professional experience, that if it is truly a mechanical problem, it's going to respond best to a mechanical treatment.
Which I don't like, but you did it. You had to do it.
Yeah.
No.
So
why don't you like it, Barbara?
Well, the tool that he used before on me, and it was too harsh for me. But he had to use it yesterday and will probably use it today and tomorrow, because that's what seems to have helped with whatever kind of injury I had or have.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. So did when I say mechanical injury, some people are thinking mechanic. What, I'm going to go to the auto shop. What are you talking about, mechanical? When I say a mechanical injury, it is the most common type of pain. It's also referred to axial pain, mechanical pain, localized pain. And what that means is that due to some kind of external stress, usually, you've caused what is commonly referred to as a sprain or strain. Now, whenever you injure those connective tissues, A sprain is mostly referring to joint and the direct connective tissues of the joint. Let's just say, to make things simple, a ligament. Or a strain is a injury to a muscle. So if you injure either of those structures, let's just talk about a sprain for a second. If you injure a ligament, that's a sprain. If you injure a ligament, the primary job of the ligament, we used to think that ligaments actually held joints together. But when you do enough dissections, you see that these tissues can't hold bones together. I mean, they're many times paper thin, but they do have a lot of sensory input. They do have a lot of feedback to the brain, and sometimes not even going all the way to the brain, but directly feeding back to the muscles that are attached to that joint. So they have an incredible stabilizing input into the stability of that joint. So if you injure a ligament, if you tweak a joint enough that that ligament becomes damaged and malfunctions in any way, you have effectively lost the immediate sensory input into that joint, and it becomes unstable. And unless you do the proper work in order to reprogram that injured tissue, that joint stays unstable and continues to degenerate at an accelerated rate because of that instability. And that pre-stresses that entire area for a more likely future episode of re-injury.
Wow. Let's continue this. We need to take a break. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS.
Healthcare can be difficult if you're underinsured or have Medi-Cal. Samuel Dixon Family Health Center can help. Services are available on a sliding fee schedule. The mission of the Samuel Dixon Family Health Center is to give the Santa Clarita Valley access to affordable, quality primary care. There are 3 locations to serve you: Canyon Country, Newhall, and Valverde. Go to sdfhc.org for more information and to find the location most convenient for you.
This is Bradley from Santa Clarita Grocery, the all-volunteer grocery program serving children, families, and individuals experiencing food insecurities. Since January 2020, Santa Clarita Grocery has distributed 83 tons of fresh groceries to 4,465 families in the SCV. Santa Clarita Grocery is a drive-up, drive-through service with physical distancing in place to continue serving our community. If you are in need or looking for a charity to do the most good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery, one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. A full 99 cents out of every dollar goes directly back to the community. Santa Clarita Grocery operates on a 1% overhead and is sustained through private donations. Santa Clarita Grocery is at 21176 Center Point Parkway in the Oasis Furniture parking lot. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or our Facebook at Santa Clarita Grocery to make a difference in our awesome town community. 661-425-7575. Be our guest and experience the difference.
Olive Terrace Bar and Grill is the hottest new Mediterranean fusion restaurant in Santa Clarita with unique delicacies like seafood right off the boat, mouth-watering prime steaks, artesian sandwiches, delicious pastas, and tasty kebabs. Unwind on their cozy outdoor patio at their weekend champagne brunch. Full menu and weekly specials at oliveterracebarandgrill.com. Check out their full bar and happy hour daily specials in Valencia on Copper Hill and Newhall Ranch Road by LA Fitness. Olive Terrace Bar and Grill, delicious food seasoned with love.
We salute our veterans who sacrifice for our freedom. Every week, we share an inspirational story of a local veteran on our Hometown Heroes page at hometownstation.com, thanks to our good friends at Eternal Valley.
I'm Richard Nunnally, General Manager of Eternal Valley Memorial Park and Mortuary. We believe taking care of each other is what community is all about. We're proud to bring you the stories of our hometown heroes.
Eternal Valley, life well celebrated.
Visit hometownstation.com, sponsored by Eternal Valley.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're speaking with Dr. Thomas Polucki, a local chiropractor, and we've been talking about back injuries.
Yeah, so when
But one of the
go ahead,
things
Gene.
I think our listeners, I can hear a drum roll in the back because I think they're curious about the treatment that is helping Barbara, but she doesn't like it. And it's getting her better. So we're just wondering, what is it that the treatment that you've given her that she doesn't like, but it's getting her better? I mean, it's like castor oil,
Right. So as as all of my patients know, and many of the listeners of this program who have heard me talk before, I'm not a big fan of the general manipulation that is commonly thought of as soon as you hear the word chiropractor.
Yeah, the twisting and the turning and
I
the
know,
bone cracking.
I know Dr. Dorio doesn't have a problem with that. It helped him tremendously in his formative years, and that's fine. But I have a much different opinion on that. The way that I treat my patients is more like a massage than it is a manipulation. In fact, there is a specific type of massage that maybe some of you have experienced. It's tapotement, and that's a fancy French, I believe, word for tapping. And instead of tapping on the muscles, we use a very precision instrument to tap very specifically on the joints, because that's where I believe the most powerful impact can take place. If you tap on an injured joint in exactly the right way, you can get that joint to start behaving more normally and actually start the reprogramming of those damaged ligaments that feed back into the muscles that are controlling that joint. And as soon as that joint starts moving more regularly, it drops the inflammation out of the area all by itself.
Interesting.
So how do you tap?
Well, there's a device. That's what Barbara was talking about. She doesn't like the device that I use on it.
Yes, but you didn't use it. Da, 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 da. You did da.
Yeah.
Duh.
Well, when you're injured, you have to be much more precise with it. It's kind of like, let me think of what most people would have a familiar experience with. There are a lot of... Go ahead.
Yeah, we just saw it on the Super Bowl. Did you not see it with the athletes and through the football season?
Okay,
they had, looked like a gun or a tapping or something.
Yes. That's similar. Good. So
professionally.
I'm glad that it's starting to get out there a little bit. Those are very heavy duty devices used primarily to treat muscles. The device that I use is a much more refined and precise device, a much smaller, much less powerful, because it's designed to very specifically and in a very much smaller area. It doesn't have that big round like golf ball head on it. It has a little thing about the size of a pencil eraser. And that taps very specifically on the injured joints. In fact, for our Facebook feed, if anybody's watching on Facebook, I just happen to have one with me. I always carry one with me. This is the device that I used on Barbara, and it is designed specifically to target, if you can see, the thing that actually makes contact is about the size of a fingertip instead of a golf ball.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I can see it now on Facebook.
Excuse me, I just did an on-air sneeze.
It looks like a drill.
Yeah. I mean, it may the actual mechanics of the housing and stuff. I'm sure it started off as some piece of equipment, but so do so many high-end surgical pieces of equipment. Their original design is from some kind of a tool, and then they refine that process to have a specific therapeutic application.
Another instrument Dr. Polucki uses is a vibration tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is more like what you saw in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it vibrates. Mm-hmm. And I like that one better.
Yeah, well,
But,
that's more of a feel-good therapy that I can keep your tension to a minimum. So again, the pre-strain of muscle tension and joint malfunction is what gets people in trouble when they do fall. It's rarely the fall itself, because I have so many people that just bend over to pick something up, and something small, not like a big heavy piece of equipment or anything. Sometimes they just bend over to pick up a pen that they dropped, and they just move the right way that can bring them to their knees. Or even more commonly, as you just saw, a sneeze. A sneeze can do that too. When there's a good amount of internal pressure that happens when somebody sneezes, and that has put people on operating tables because of the pre-strain that I was talking about before the break. That when a ligament in the spine becomes injured, unless it's properly rehabilitated. Now, sprains and strains, I am not going to argue with it at all, because it is just too common experience that a sprain or a strain will feel better in most cases, as long as it's not extensive, in something around 6 weeks. So that certainly doesn't warrant the attention of an ER doctor. So they're going to dismiss that pretty quickly. If they don't see a broken bone, if they don't see a dislocation, if they can't determine that there's any significant internal bleeding, they're going to recommend, oh, well, it's just a muscle spasm. Here's some muscle relaxants. Here's some anti-inflammatories. Follow up with your primary if you're not feeling better within a couple of days. And they're done. And from their point of view, because, they're dealing with life and death situations, they're 100% correct. The problem is that they're not right. I mean, they're right from their point of view, but they're not right for that patient, because that sprained ligament doesn't just automatically get better. Even if it feels better within a couple of weeks, it's not better. And I see that all the time with people who have extensive, way backdated injuries, and I can point them out on an x-ray, and we have a formula to determine within a couple of years how long ago that joint was injured. And people are blown away when I tell them, okay, you injured this area like 30 years ago. And they were like, wait, no, I was in high school then. I was like, yeah, this injury is 30 years old. Trust me on that. You just got to think a little bit about it. And then eventually, a lot of times, they'll say, oh, yeah, and either come up with some significant sports injury or some significant car wreck or something like that. Because the timeline on these injuries, when that joint becomes unstable, even if it feels better, even if they don't have to do any kind of treatment, even if they never go to the ER or receive any kind of a treatment, as soon as that ligament is no longer feeding the right information to the muscles that control that joint, that stabilize that joint starts breaking down at a very predetermined rate. And we have a pretty accurate formula about dating these injuries. So I know this to be a fact. This is not an opinion, because I can do it almost every time on an x-ray.
So when Barbara came in to your office and she was in pain and you used the tapping tool on her, If she said the pain is right here, did you place the tapping tool on that point, or are there like points of like acupuncture pressure points that one would then put acupuncture pressure on? Are there pressure points that tappers use to figure out as opposed to the specific place of origin of pain?
Both. Absolutely both. Both and more. But that is a great question. So in mechanical pain, there is usually an exquisitely painful spot right in the immediate area of the injury. But with referred pain, that can be misleading. And with radicular pain, unless you know the pathway of those nerves, that can again be misleading. And there are more things that can factor into it. Maybe it's not just a spinal segment. Maybe it's not just a spinal joint that was sprained. Maybe the hip joint was sprained. Maybe the knee joint was sprained as well. And maybe they're feeding into that whole system. And maybe there are strains of the muscle that are another feedback loop in the body, and they have to be addressed as well. So you have to be kind of a detective, a physical medicine detective, of tracking down all the possible contributing factors instead of just saying, well, where does it hurt?
Well, it's interesting because my initial pain was on the right-hand side, and it gradually moved over to the left-hand side of my lower back. And I feel it now on my right side, but it hasn't moved over to the left side. So
because we treated it mechanically.
Yes.
It was starting to refer, and eventually it would refer out in, most commonly it refers from the center out and down and out. I have experienced a few incidences which technically shouldn't exist. Like these type of referring pains should never go upstream. They should never go above the injury. But I've seen it, so it is possible. It's just rare. There are feedback loops. There are times when problems in the neck can feed back into the brain. Like I have experience with trigeminal neuralgia, and if anybody, God forbid, anybody knows what that is, it is an injury to a cranial nerve. And also with Meniere's disease, the vestibular nerve is a cranial nerve. And I have enough experience that is not just anecdotal. I mean, there is a direct causal relationship of injuries in the neck that feed back into these things that they shouldn't be able to affect, but they do all the time. So referred pain usually goes down and out, but it can go up and in. And radicular pain can only go down and out.
Well, now I'm curious now. That injury I had 4.5 years ago, is that at all connected to the injury I had yesterday?
It always is. Here's the thing. Again, most sprains and strains will feel better within 6 weeks. Really bad ones can take twice that. And notice I said feel better. I didn't say get better.
Get better, feel better. Well, did I have a sprain?
Oh,
or
yeah.
a strain? I did.
Yeah,
a
both.
Sprain.
Both. So, but I'm more concerned about the sprain, the injury to the joint, because of how that destabilizes that area and kind of presets the stage for further degeneration and a higher risk of new injuries. So it's not that one injury replaces the old one, it's that it adds a new layer onto the whole problem. And when you opened up your part of the segment and you said, well, I see you once a week, and some people are going to be like, oh, I got to keep going back for the rest of my life. And, no, you don't.
No.
You don't, but you chose to.
Yes.
Because you saw the result. You saw the result. You didn't see the result going other places.
That's right.
getting other kinds of treatment, but you did see the result with this, and you valued that kind of stability. And even with this injury, that could have been so much worse.
Oh, I know.
You know, in one visit, you're already turning around the whole situation. So that's the value of kind of trying to stay on top of these things proactively. I know that's a very hard sell in healthcare, that most people wait until they just can't function to do anything. But so many of the emergency procedures that we just trust blindly have lifelong consequences. You know, you start on any form of medication, there's a very good chance that you'll be taking that for the rest of your life, unless it's something like antibiotics for an infection like that. But most of the most common drugs out there are pretty much lifetime prescriptions.
Well, now, you had mentioned something about bacterial infection. Is that a possibility with my injury?
It's always a possibility, and it doesn't have to be bacterial. A viral infection can affect the spine. A bacterial infection is scary because it can eat joints as fast as cancer, and that is very nasty to deal with. But no, typically when we're concerned about an infection is from a puncture wound.
Oh, okay.
You didn't
No.
scrape your skin, and it would be too soon anyway. You just fell. You didn't have any cuts. You didn't have any bruises. You didn't have any puncture wounds, and it doesn't happen that fast. Usually by the time an infection has gotten to the point where it's like critical and dangerous, you know, it takes a while for it to get that bad in the spine. But unfortunately, that area of the spine, yeah, if you did have any kind of puncture or scrape, let's say a couple of weeks ago, I would absolutely be checking you for signs of infection and probably even ordering, you know, advanced imaging.
Okay. Well, hopefully none of that will be.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're responding to care, which is the big takeaway on this. And
Keep on tapping. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Barb.
I'm what?
Keep on tapping. Sorry, Barb.
Keep on tapping.
I'm sorry, Gene. It's really hard. I don't know how clearly you're hearing us, but you sound like you're talking through a kazoo.
A what?
I am.
You know, to me, at least. I don't know if it's just my earphone or what.
Well,
it's probably one of my cranial nerves.
There you go.
Well, we need to take another break.
Okay.
On that note, I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS.
There are many memorable restaurants in Santa Clarita, but 3 words stand out from the crowd. Mom can cook.
Mamá puede cocinar.
Mom can cook the best Thai food on this side of the planet.
Mama fait la cuisine.
No matter what language you use, Mom Can Cook says it all. Thai food at its finest, all your favorite dishes, and Mom's very own original specialties. Experience it on Soledad by the Canyon Country Post Office.
Mama 요리가 좋대요.
Mom Can Cook.
Why did Mercedes-Benz of Valencia win the Dealer of Excellence Award in 2019?
Because we strive to provide the most outstanding sales experience.
Mercedes-Benz of Valencia COO Chris Paz.
We know you have high expectations. Our stellar team will meet and exceed your expectations. That's why we were named Mercedes Best of the Best, placing us in the top 10% of all Mercedes dealers nationwide.
Find out how you can lease a new Mercedes for unbelievably low monthly payments. Details at mbzvalencia.com.
It's time to experience a pain relief, wellness, and anti-aging treatment unlike any other. It's time to check out Mend Cryotherapy. Relieve chronic joint and muscle pain, diminish soreness and inflammation, alleviate stress-related symptoms, boost immune system performance, and improve sleep and recovery times. Mend Cryotherapy is open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go to Mend, M-E-N-D, cryotherapy.com on Newhall Ranch Road in the Gateway Shopping Center.
It's time to enhance your natural beauty at Hestia Medical Spa.
Select from a large menu of services, including an assortment of fillers that can be used in the face, lips, hands, and a variety of other body parts. Get rid of that double chin with Kybella, an injectable treatment to permanently destroy fat cells under the chin. Hestia Medical Spa also offers Botox, Dysport, and Xeomin to help reduce severe frown lines. Experience rejuvenation at Hestia Medical Spa, located on Valencia Boulevard next to City Hall. Call 753-3434 or go online to hestiamedicalspa.com.
A Royal Suite Home Furnishings has been family-owned and operated in Santa Clarita since 1978. They keep America working by stocking heritage quality furniture made right here in the USA. With high-end design and thousands of fabrics to choose from, a Royal Suite offers a wide selection of furniture at incredibly low prices. Pay 0% interest with your approved credit for 12, 24, 36, or 48 months. See store for details. Visit A Royal Suite, massive showroom on Carl Boyer Drive near Sam's Club in Santa Clarita.
A Royal Suite.
Sweet dreams.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're speaking with Dr. Thomas Polucki, a local chiropractor, and talking about back problems.
Yeah, so we're coming down to the stretch here, so I got to try to consolidate my message for today. And we were talking about the different types of back pains, how I feel that it is largely misdiagnosed and most commonly mistreated. And the reason I say that is my experience. I'm sure that an ER doctor has a completely different experience because they're dealing with different things than me. But I see the people that fall through the cracks when the dismissal of something, it's just a soft tissue injury, causes them lifelong problems. There's no such thing as a soft tissue. A coronary, a heart attack is a soft tissue injury. A stroke is a soft tissue injury. It's just the tissue that's being injured. And when it comes to spinal injury, when it comes to spraining the ligaments that keep the spine stabilized, keep the spine talking to the brain properly so that you are balanced, so that you are coordinated, so that your posture is in alignment and you're more stable, you're more flexible, you're stronger, and you're less likely to injure. I don't think that warrants a dismissal of, it's just a soft tissue injury. Here, just take some muscle relaxers and everything will be fine. But they're justified in that because most people feel better within a couple of weeks of the injury. So everybody's happy with that until they get to someone like me many years later because they have all these untreatable, manageable chronic pain syndromes anymore, and I track it back to an injury that may have happened 3 decades ago or more. And then there's a lot of splaining to do. So if it only takes a little bit if it's caught early enough, if you stabilize that spinal segment and rehabilitate the feedback from those ligaments and get those joints moving smoothly again without creating any new problems, then people do much better. And that's my experience. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Absolutely.
Hey, and Barb, you got to just get used to the idea you are going to be tapped.
I know.
That's all there. It's just a treatment modality that is working. So
absolutely,
go with it, Barb.
Yes,
you got it here.
Yes,
you got it. So, Thomas, how do people get a hold of you?
So the phone number is 661-753-9340.
Okay, that's 753-9340. Dr. Thomas Polucki, the tapper. And Barbara will enlighten us next week on the show as how the tapping went today. But if you're back to normal, Barb, more power to tapping.
Absolutely, Gene. Absolutely.
Great, Thomas. Thanks for being on the show today. Always
Thank you.
super information. We appreciate your being with us again. We are sponsored by Comfort Keepers In-Home Care, Providence Holy Cross Medical Center, and Hestia Med Spa. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.